Hi everyone. Today's lesson is multiplication with decimals and whole numbers. Our learning goal for today is I can perform operations with multi-digit whole numbers and with decimals to hundredths. Okay, the most important thing about multiplying decimals is knowing where to put that decimal point. There's a few key steps to placing it correctly in your product. First, you count each place value position behind the decimal point. Let me show you what I mean. If I have something like 2 3/10 times 4. In the factor 2 3/10, I have 1 place value behind the decimal point. In the number 4, it's a whole number. I don't have any place value positions behind the decimal point. So here I have 1. Here I have 0. That's a total of 1. I start at the end of my product, so I'm going to multiply like I normally would. 4 times 3 is 12. Regroup the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Starting at the end of my product, and I'm going to move the decimal point to the left based on how many decimals were in the factors. Well, we said before there was 1 decimal in the factor, so I'm going to move my decimal point 1 place to the left. My answer is 9 2/10. Because you see the pencil sign here, and I told you, placing the decimal point is really important. Pause the video and write down the notes from this page into your journal. Okay, now I'm going to multiply each place value. I have the problem 6 times 8 23/100. I'm going to start by setting this up vertically. The commutative property of multiplication, remember, says it doesn't matter what order we multiply in, we'll get the same product. So I'm going to put the number with more digits on top, 8 23/100 times 6. Now I'm going to multiply like I normally would. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 1 is 49. Notice I haven't done anything with the decimal point yet. Now that I have a product, I need to place my decimal point. So I'm going to go up to my factors. In the number 8 23/100, I have 1, 2 place value positions behind the decimal point. In the number 6, it's a whole number. I have no place value positions behind the decimal point. When I add that, I get a total of 2. So I'm going to start at the end of my number, and I'm going to move to the left 2 places. 1, 2, decimal point. So my answer to 6 times 8 23/100 is 49 38/100. Before you even multiply, you can tell how many decimal places will be in the product. You do that just like I just showed you. You count the number of decimal places in your factors. Let's see what I mean. 6 81/100. There's 1, 2 places behind the decimal. In the number 7, there's 0 places behind the decimal. So in my product, there will be 2 decimal places. Let's look at the next one. 6 3/10 times 4. Well, in 6 3/10, I have 1 place behind the decimal here. 4 has 0 places behind the decimal. 1 plus 0 is 1. There's going to be 1 decimal place in the product. Finally, 1 234,000 times 2. Here I have 1, 2, 3 places behind the decimal. And in the number 2, I have 0 places behind the decimal. So I know I will have 3 decimal places in my product. I'm going to do one just to prove it's true, in case you don't believe me. 1 234,000 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. In this number, the first factor, I have 1, 2, 3 places behind the decimal. In this factor, I don't have any places behind the decimal. It's a total of 3. Start 1, 2, 3. Decimal point. My answer here is 2 and 468 thousandths. Yep, I said I was going to have, said I was going to have 3 places, decimal places in the product, and I do. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's try a couple examples together. First, I want to write out my problem vertically. So I have 34 and 76 hundredths times 7. Well, 6 times 7 is 42. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 4 is 53. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 5 is 33. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24. Now I have to figure out where to put that decimal place. Well, up here in my factors, I have 1, 2 places behind the decimal. My whole number has 0 places behind the decimal. So I'm going to start at the back of my number and move to the left 1, 2 places. My answer is 243 and 32 hundredths. Let's see another example. 3 and 4 tenths times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Here I have 1 place behind my decimal. My whole number of 5, I have 0 places behind my decimal. So I'm going to start at the back and move my decimal 1 place to the left. So my answer is 17, or I could put 17.0, but we know we don't need that 0 at the end of our decimal point. Since you see a pencil, go ahead and pause the video and write these examples exactly as I have into the input side of your notes. All right, now let's see how this would work with a word problem. Gasoline costs $2.03 per gallon. Donald puts 9 gallons of gas in his tank. How much will the gasoline cost? Well, this is something that adults deal with every day. We have to put gas in our cars to get them to go. A lot of times we're calculating kind of in our heads how much that gasoline is going to cost. Let's figure out an exact amount. We have $2.03 times the 9 gallons he wants to put in his tank. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 9 times 2 is 18. Got to figure out where to put that decimal point. I have 1, 2 places behind my decimal here. I have 0 places here. Notice we keep writing 0 for the second one. That's because we're multiplying decimals by whole numbers today. When we start multiplying decimals by decimals, it won't be a 0 there every time. It's a total of 2. 1, 2. So it's going to cost Donald $18.27 to fill up his tank with 9 gallons of gas. Not too bad. Let's see another one. Mari and Rob are making a poster for the science fair. They would need to figure out how much a rock that weighs 8 pounds on Earth would weigh on Mars. They know they can multiply the amount the rock weighs on Earth by 32 hundredths to find out its weight on Mars. What would be the weight of the rock on Mars? Well, we know the rock weighs 8 pounds on Earth, and we know we can multiply the amount the rock weighs on Earth by 32 hundredths to find its weight on Mars. Well, let's do that. Because 32 hundredths, even though it's a smaller number, has more digits, I'm going to put it on top, and I'm going to multiply by 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 1, 2 decimal places here. 0 decimal places there. The rock would weigh 2 and 56 hundredths of a pound on Mars. Remember how I switched up the factors here? I know in the problem it said 8 first and then 32 hundredths, but I wrote 32 hundredths and then 8. Can you remember which property says that it's okay to do that? If you said the commutative property of multiplication, you are absolutely right. All right, now it's time to summarize with our line of learning. Betty Sue wants to find the product of 2 45/100 and 4. She says the product would be 9 8/10. Is Betty Sue correct? Solve the problem and then explain your answer in your math journal. Be sure to include math vocabulary and complete sentences in your response. Good luck!